The MTD CNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's podcast. It is the first of 2025. It does feel quite surreal saying that. But we got together today, the whole crew. So here is everybody. We've got Paul, the CEO of MTD CNC. We have got Joe, who is the Managing Director here at MTD CNC. And we've also got Tom, who is the technical presenter and an account manager as well. How is everyone doing?
Happy New Year. All
Happy
good.
Yeah,
New
really
Year.
good. Good break over Christmas, which was good to have. But yeah, ready to get going.
Did you watch TikTok over Christmas, by the way,
I
Paul?
always watch TikTok every day.
He literally is.
You listened
obsessed.
to our last podcast, didn't you? Yeah. I bought some stuff as well, which I won't tell you what it was. But
No.
Yeah.
Did it work?
no, it didn't.
Maybe don't go buy it on there again. No, I'm only joking. So we got together today. It's our first day back. All we basically wanted to do was talk about 2024, things we learnt, maybe our core memories and moments. But, you know, I, for one, feel extremely privileged to be able to go out to industry, not just in the UK as well. You know, our team are global. And here in the UK, we do get to travel. We spend a lot of time in Europe and we get to get real stories from industry. How incredible. Let's go back to basics. How incredible and privileged are we to get to see things that we see throughout the year and stories, real stories?
Yeah, I think sometimes we do. You take everything in life for granted when you've been repeatedly doing something that's good for a period of time. And we've been doing this. Well, in fact, I did a post just before the new year of the first video that we did, which I'm sure you all saw, which was the one with Richard Hughes on the Nakamura machine. No, I know. Well, I couldn't believe the comments, and people were actually agreeing with me, and I thought so. But yeah, that video.
I love the choice of shirt and tie, mind you.
Yeah. I've still got that shirt. It's a bit baggy now, but But yeah, we did that back in I think it was 2013. I think from date, but that just seems like. It just seems like yesterday. I can remember rocking up with a camera with Ian Carvo, who's obviously our cameraman. It was a huge camera on his shoulder. And we just spoke to Richard Hughes and just said, look, let's just do this and let's see where it goes. The following day it was published, I actually had a managing director of another machine tool company actually ring me and say, and he'll know who it was. He said, "Oh, Paul, I've just seen you endorse one of our competitors' machines. Would you care to come and endorse ours?" And I guess that was the kind of light bulb moment in some senses, which made me think, perhaps we're onto something.
This might work.
Yeah. And look, here we are. So,
and how many years on? 13
years on. And yeah, we obviously travelling in the world, and we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff we saw and did last year. It was a great year. So, we just, every year we come into it and we look forward to all the exploits that are going to happen in the year ahead as well.
Yeah.
But you're so right, Lindsay. We're so lucky. There's when you look at the whole industry, I doubt 1% have seen as much as any of us, really.
I'll never forget.
Around the world, all the different brands, all the different end users we go and see. We're very fortunate.
I'll never forget going to the Hermle facility in Germany and you, Joe, saying to me, Linz, people don't get to see this. This is an absolute privilege and an honour to be able to just be here. And, I know, Tom, you've been to the Hermle facility as well. Look at this. Right, look at it. It's exciting what we get to see, and not everybody has that opportunity. You loved it, didn't you, Tom?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And we'll get on to that later on, because we're going to talk about some of the open houses we've been to.
And we saw you with that Stein, that big 2-pint thing.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about the open house, but don't really want to talk about the night before. No, not because it wasn't a good night, I just don't remember a lot of it.
It's not a big drink, it's just got really small hands.
Yeah, small hands.
But it wasn't just the drink, it was the ride we went on, but we'll talk about that a little bit.
We can talk about that. Everything's off limits or on limits in this podcast.
This concerns me somewhat. Anyway, right, let's talk about travels across Europe, because that's exciting, and I did quite a bit of travelling last year. So I'll start with yourself, Paul, and then I'll chip in with some of the places that I went.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Oh, sorry. I was actually going to ask me a question. I'd probably start.
Wakey.
I'm looking in order when I look back on the year. in sort of preparation for knowing that we were going to do this podcast, I thought, what's the easiest way for me to remember everywhere I've been and everything I've done? So I went back through my phone and looked through all my photos from what happened last year. And of course, the first set was the DMG Mori Fronton Open House, which often it is. So that in 2024, I've got to also say, for people watching, it is a fabulous event. You've been there.
Yeah.
Tom, you may even be going this year. I'm not sure yet, but I don't know whether you've been there, Joe. But it is, I mean, the place, the backdrop, the facility. I mean, we're talking about, I think there was about 40 machines on show last time around.
It's a pinnacle, isn't it?
It is, and it almost like gets the year going. It falls a little bit later this year in 2025. In fact, the dates are between the 10th and the 21st of February. 2-hour drive from Munich, as you know, beautiful mountains, snow everywhere. And of course, the most important thing, the technology that's on show. But I think what always fascinates me is that year on year we go, and it must be almost a year in planning, because what you see there is just innovating so quickly. Like there's always like 4 or 5 world premieres. Then you'll go to an exhibition like we did at AMB, and there's another 4 or 5 world premieres. And now I read there's more world premieres at Fronton in a few weeks' time, and even ultrasonic technology is going to be on show there. New turning centres, new entry-level 5-axis machines. But it's a place for people to visit if they really want. I mean, the whole area, just to give you a visual, if you haven't been there, it's about the size of a football pitch, where all the demonstrations and the machines are.
I'd say larger, Paul.
But perhaps it is. I mean, but where the actual machines are. If you talk about the whole premises, then it's going to be bigger, because they obviously manufacture machines there too. But even some of the demonstrations, there's some stuff on our TikTok and Instagram pages of like was it an eagle, or can you remember what
it was a shark.
A shark.
There was a shark. Yeah, who was brushing his teeth.
And can I just say, let's not dangle that, because I'm fed up of watching videos of you two going, and it looks amazing. Let's not dangle you might be when you might not be going.
Well, I have to caveat everything with a mic, because we just have. But no, seriously, Tom, it would be great.
If not, you're gonna have a rather large suitcase this year, because I'm going to be in it. Because I'm fed up of seeing you two going and seeing what is on show.
Yeah.
And I think the tagline for that was, even sharks have to brush their own teeth.
Yes, it was.
Because they got a toothbrush in the spindle.
Yeah.
And
it was, and
for somebody who likes machining footage, it is a dream.
Yes, it is.
You would love it, Tom, and you will
I'm
definitely.
not liking this. You would. You will. You will love it.
Pushed into a no, but seriously, it's a brilliant show, and I think from the UK perspective, we go with the sort of UK team, so with Steve and Charlie, and they take like two batches of customers over there, and every time the customers have a fabulous time. The hospitality is brilliant. Some of the Alpine, is it an Alpine house they call it, where you go and have lunch with all and it's just terrific event for world class innovation.
Yes, the
automation,
whole experience.
the AGVs there. You've got these vehicles moving around, moving pallets from machine to machine. The biggest tool changer. Do you remember that tool changer?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
1,000 tools.
Yeah.
And that video is on our Instagram.
Yeah. So
I liked the automation that was feeding both the horizontal and the vertical machines as well. What one piece of automation feeding both machines. So I've never seen that before, because you always think, okay, if you're going to automate, it's got to be the same either side, but it wasn't. So
no, well, it taps all into this kind of MX strategy, the machining transformation, which takes into account automation, the digital processes, sustainability, which is a big thing now for the green environment. And again, there's 4 pillars to that, and we looked at that at AMB, but again in at this event in literally a few weeks' time, they'll be talking about the same. But it was a it was a superb time. Yeah.
So another company that I went to visit was Spinner, and they have their open house, and it's the second year that I've been privileged to be able to go. And I think this is a brand of machine tools that is they are going places. As a company, you will find that Axel Spinner, one of the brothers from owners of the company, walks around. You can talk to him, and I think for me, it really shows innovation. Yes, it's not a company as large as your DMG Mori, but what's different about them is the fact that you've got the owner walking around. You can literally talk to him, and he has the ability to be able to change their machines, so they listen to their customers from the top all the way down, and that's really, really interesting when I see the spinner a company as a brand. You know, as a customer, you could go in there, speak to the boss and say, I'm struggling with this, I need this, and they're there. Their solution, they're always finding a solution with spinner machines, and I think that as a company is fierce. I've really learned a lot from the spinner brand.
Yeah, well, the options on the machines that they have as well. I mean, I didn't go on that trip that you went on, but I did watch the factory tour that you did, as well as some of the other reviews with Axel. With actually the machines, there was one I recall where there was no covers on the machines, and he was talking himself about, you know, the castings, the angles, the construction, and all of those things. From my perspective, having seen the spinner machines at AMB and of course at White House Machine Tools here in the UK, they tap into this sort of, you know, we want to provide as much flexibility as we can, and we want to try and look for areas on machines that might be slightly different to what others are offering. They have this quite novel ring around their 5-axis table, which I saw at a company in Nottingham Way, CBE Plus, and I was there with Terry Turner. You take the ring off the 5-axis table, so when the table tips or the trunnion tips, it means you can get closer to the workpiece without, you know, you can get the tool closer to the workpiece, which means you don't have to have an extended tool, which means you can have less vibration, you get better surface finish. And there's lots of these little elements with the spinner technology. Which
they do think outside the box, don't they? I like they've got the 5 axes with the 3-axis table.
Yes.
In terms of technology, quite easy to pull off, isn't it? But it's just different. You can put large components.
You can turn that table as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they just try to be a little bit different, which I guess makes sense. Is that, like you say, is the bigger companies out there, and maybe when you're on one of the smaller ones, you have to innovate, don't you? You have to be top of your game, innovate, do things differently, I guess.
What Axel Spinner said to me at AMB, he said, we saw a problem that VMCs, I think they have a meter in the x-axis, or it was 600 in the x-axis. I can't remember exactly which one it was. He said, we identified a problem that our customers said, we need a machine that has a smaller footprint with that travel in it. So we took that, we went and developed a machine in order to counteract that argument and supply a product of that nature. And then they had it at A&B. I totally agree with everything that you said.
Interestingly, at CTP, a company that we went to in the UK, they saw that and the footprint of the machine. So they're getting a lot of table, a lot of cutting space, but the actual footprint
of it. The same machine?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was the same machine you're talking about, but because that's the latest one. But that's exactly what they've done. So the actual footprint of the machine is tiny, and yet the machining space is huge in comparison. So they think differently at Spinner, I'd say. Right, okay, there's quite a lot to get through. So you go next, whomever. Tom?
Well, are we doing this in date order, or are we jumping around?
You can jump around.
So you've already spoke about it. Let's go for Hermle. Now, we'll talk a bit about AMB later on, but obviously went to AMB, and at AMB, the guys there did, and again it's the word, but they did an influencer event on the last day, which I was quite fortunate to go to, with another load of machinists from around the world. And that same group then went to Hermle. So we all got invited over to Hermle to look round his facility, which is just
mega
unreal. You can't actually say how good it is. You've got to go and visit it.
Do they make everything there?
They were, if I'm right, they were making 1,000 tool holders a day.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's about
they've got so many machines in there of all different brands. But the day before, talking about hospitality and Andreas, and we know what Andreas is like.
Are you his biggest fan?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But it's a two-way streak. He loves me, I love him. It's one of them. Isn't it? Well, the day before, he took us for a tour around Munich and stuff, and then we went to Oktoberfest. Now, I've never been to Oktoberfest. I'm not a big beer drinker. I'm more of a spirits, that sort of thing.
Mate, that's the wrong place to go.
And obviously we went to Oktoberfest in the VIP section, and it is just the maddest thing I've ever been to.
I don't think I've ever been to one. I've been to Germany so many times, but I've not been.
It's in a tent, which is, again, the size of a football field. In the middle, you've got live bands playing, and the weirdest thing is it's mostly British music. So you've got Spice Girls, you've got Barbie Girl, you've got all them cheesy types of music.
Never heard of it.
And there's thousands of people singing along.
Really?
So when it was just before, it was just after Oasis said they were going to do their new tour.
Okay.
They played Wonderwall. I have never heard so many people in so many different accents of languages singing Wonderwall. It was the best thing ever.
And they have obviously beer there. Clearly.
They do.
But what about food? Is it?
So no, it's not all just beer. But the one thing they have to say about the beer is the beer at Oktoberfest is stronger than your normal beer. So it's got a higher percentage because they have their own beer. So you have each tent is a different beer, and you don't just get a little beer. These things are massive.
Steins.
And the thing is, the women, you'll have seen the videos of them carrying. They do that, and it is. You've got women who are absolutely tiny, and they've got like 20 of these things.
Where is he? It must be round Munich, I guess.
Yes, yeah. But the thing is because they want you to drink as much as possible, as soon as you've finished it, there's another one there.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask. You don't do anything.
And that's what I hate about pubs in this
They are
country.
constantly.
That's
What, you have to
completely
ask
the
for a
reverse.
drink, Paul?
That's completely the reverse. You're almost thinking about ordering in advance because you sometimes
Double
have to wait.
parked.
I thought you
Double
click,
parked.
do you not click your fingers, Paul? I thought you...
That's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
So then obviously you get food. Well, you get a little bit of food. You don't get much, which then means you get quite drunk very quickly. And one funny story before we go back onto Hermle is we were there with a few other influencers. I was there with Ian Sandusky, Swede Machinist, Bavaria. And one of them, they've got one of them rides, you know, that goes really, really high, sits you at the top and then just drops you.
I like those.
Somebody decided to go on that after we'd had like two of the Steins. So we went on this thing. We're right at the very top. And I got Ian Sandusky at the side of me, who's a lot taller than me. He's like 6 foot something. And the guy from Hermle was at the other side. So Ian's like 6 foot. He must be 6'3", 6'4". The guy from Hermle's like 6'6", and I'm sat in the middle, so it's like that. Got to the top, and all the way down, all you hear in the video is me laughing because them two are screaming like girls.
Yeah.
And I don't.
What are you
and I
saying?
mean, no, I mean like very, very young girls. They are. There was no manly scream about it. It was the height and all the way down. So anyway. And then Andreas is walking around, Catherine Heimer's walking around, their mum's walking around, and they're coming over, they're constantly coming over. Are you okay? You having a good time? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? They are constantly around.
Yeah.
Andreas is grabbing you every 2 minutes for a photo. Catherine's their photo, and it is brilliant. So we went to that, and then the next day we went to their facility, and they take you to like, this little facility. It's like a little building. It's essentially like a studio. They've got a couple of machines in there, big projector with all the tables. And you walked in and they've got tables per country. So they've got a German table, and then right at the very front, right in front of everything, was the influencer table. Yeah. So you're like right on show. And so we got to do all that, and it tells you about up and coming projects and why you should buy, because they've got a lot of customers there. Why you should buy this tool over this tool holder, shows you all the graphs and stuff. Then they got all the demos running to show you. The thing with Hermle is they don't just tell you the results, they show you.
Yeah.
And then obviously they've just got a tooling company on board as well, which you'll know more about, Joe, because that's your bag. So they're showing you why you should use them tools, and it was really weird because you'll go to a lot of places and they'll be like, oh, this tool holder's great, but this tool holder's brilliant as well, and they'll not really say which. He's like, well, if you're doing this sort of work, that's your tool holder, but it's not the best. He was showing you where, in what industry, what was better and why.
Is there a trend of a new tool that's been
so they've got a new tool holder, and I cannot remember the life of me what it was called. It was like the power truck, but it was the weirdest thing where they took a shrink fit tool and then welded a collet into it.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
The Power Shrink Plus, I think it was called. And obviously what's happened is they've had a lot of customers who use the shrink fit say, these shrink fit's brilliant, but they hold the tool too stiff.
Okay.
So as soon as there's any sort of vibration, the tool's snapping. So now it's got dampening in it, so it lets the tool move. It's a minute amount. Yeah. You'll never see it, but it's just enough where you can double feed rates, you can double step overs, and they were showing us in their machines.
Does it affect the accuracy of the final part or the certain? No.
And like the surface finish was brilliant. It was great. And then after we'd done all that, and we'd had some very German dinner.
Not heavy, was it?
No.
Not meat based.
Yeah, just a little bit. It was like a meat with a side of meat with a side of meat.
Yeah.
Anyway. But it was
Some
brilliant.
carbs.
And then they take you to the production facility and
something else, isn't it?
you sort of walk in and you go up onto the veranda thing and you just look over it, and it was really weird because he says like each group had like their own person with the mic. You had like an earphone in so you could hear him. Well, obviously we all got Andreas, which was just the best because obviously you've got the source there, and he was taking it round and he was like, when he was talking to the customers and stuff, so you're all in a big group to start with, and he's like, right, please follow these lines, don't go here, don't go there, follow this line. When he took us, it was like, just go everyone. And I was like, I was doing like a bit of a live while I was there, and I messed up really because I should have had a mic because you couldn't really hear him. But he was like, I was like, can I film that? It's like, just film anything you want. And it was, and they took you around and then they were showing you like some of their new products. So they've now got an AI, we'll get onto AI, but they've now have an AI tool setter, which is just mad. You literally put a tool in, put a holder in, you don't tell anything. You literally just click it twice and it does everything for you. It knows if you put a drill in, it knows if you put an Hermle in, it knows everything. And it sets it. And the good thing about it was all their own products they use, they don't use in the presetters and everything, they don't use anything else. So he was showing you, look, you like our stuff, you know how accurate our stuff is, you know how well our stuff runs, and yet it's all done with our stuff. So why wouldn't you buy it?
Yeah.
Tom, I think from your story, just to add to that, what's I'm noticing as well is influencers. There's a presence of influencers, and it just shows how different things are changing. You know, going out, meeting people. That's only really become something in the last few years, hasn't it, really?
And essentially that's what we are.
Yeah.
That's how marketing's changing, isn't it, really, these days?
We're thought leaders because we the places we go, the stuff we know, the backgrounds we have, but essentially we are all still influencers at the end of the day because it's just what we know and it's what we talk about.
Yeah, I'm not keen on the term, if I'm honest.
No, I'm not.
Because an influencer means you've got a big following, but you might not know anything. Whereas you, in different industries, maybe this one as well, you're seen as an influencer, but you don't actually know what you're talking about.
Do you know, it's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Whereas we are engineers first, we just happen to have a big following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another podcast that we do, which we all know, which is all about marketing, digital marketing, and how to get the best out of it. And I think we should touch more on that, or we will do.
Yeah.
On that.
Okay. I don't want to move on because I want to just briefly discuss going out to Aamia in Spain, in the Basque region. I was privileged enough to be able to go out there last year, and I think for me, I just am amazed when I go to these facilities, seeing machines of this size being built on site in the Basque region, and also the versatility of some of the machines and the fact that there was one machine that they were building that doesn't look anything like an Aamia machine, and they're building it tailored to a company that nobody will ever reach into that machine. No human will ever go into that machine and change components. It is all automated, the whole process from start to finish. It didn't even look like an Aamia machine. There was no sides on it. You would never recognize it. And it shows how these companies have to then be so bespoke in the machines that they build. And I didn't realize that with such large machines. You just think, okay, they make that, but they don't. In such, you've seen the machines, Paul.
Yeah.
They're like 10 meters in length. Some of
what
these.
was that
They're
machine
huge.
making? Can you remember?
It was something to do with jeans. So
as in what these?
Yeah, as in
really?
yeah.
Not
Something to do with the machines making jeans.
You'd never guess that, would you?
Yeah, no, I know. Isn't it crazy? But yeah, that's what I don't think we were really properly allowed to know. But it was to do with producing either machines or something to do with jeans.
Oh wow!
What a part of the world as well.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
There's a couple of companies that we visit there regularly.
Oh, yes.
Aamia, I went to last year as well. I didn't go on the same trip as you.
No.
But I did go there because it's only, about 20 minutes from the airport, if you remember correctly.
Oh, don't you dare. He told us it was 20 minutes.
Everywhere's
it was about
20
an hour
minutes
and a half.
from the airport.
It rained the whole time we were there. And then you put us in a hotel. I've got to tell everyone this. You put us in a hotel that you told me that was 20 minutes away. It was not. I literally closed my eyes and had my hands over my eyes, and I was petrified. Ian's like an ex-racing driver, so he was cutting the corners like nobody's business. Flying up, you couldn't see 2 meters ahead of you in the middle of a mountain that was about an hour away, but you were like, yeah, it's only about 10 minutes away.
There is that.
Just saying.
Same time this year.
I stayed at that hotel as well.
Did it rain the whole time?
I took the same. Yeah, it does in that area. I took the same journey, kind of up a mountain and around the top. It was only when I got to the hotel that I spoke to the receptionist, which perhaps you guys didn't, that there is a quicker way to get to it. If you go up,
it's just one straight road up the
takes
mountain.
10 minutes.
And you went on whatever. Absolutely
seriously,
not.
If you go up to the coast and then you go back on yourself, but that's digressing. But it is a beautiful area, Joe.
You know what? When you do go out to Fronton, you'll be about 4 hours away, but it'll tell you around the corner.
But the Aamia factory is huge as well, and it's kind of nestled in a town, isn't it? And you get there and you think, well, where is this place? It kind of just jumps out at you. But their technology, their brand name, the amount of machines they're selling around the world, they're growing. They're
definitely growing.
They're growing quickly. Yeah. Traveling column, 5-axis, multitasking. They talk about this multidiscipline machining
all the time.
Where it's kind of, whether you're gear skiving, whether you're turning, whether you're grinding, whether you're 5-axis machining, it's all in the one place.
And with different pallets connected to the machines as well.
And of course, it's logical. We talk about automation, but you look at automation and you go, automation has to have more value with larger and heavier parts, doesn't it? Because a smaller part, if you want to pick this phone up and move it around a machine shop, it's not so difficult. All right, you still will have a problem maintaining your accuracies and so forth. But a large part, picking up, you'd have to have muscles like him to be picking up things and moving some of these parts around the shop. So they talk very much about keeping everything on one machine. And Ignacio, who we met and we saw at AMB as well, and they had some great wines. He's also a keen tennis player, like Javier. But both of those are not a patch on me. So in addition to the machine.
Yeah, because as you know, he's never lost a game.
So I don't know if the audience...
I find that increasingly difficult to believe after seeing you play table tennis, let alone on a proper tennis.
I don't know if you know Paul, but Paul will say at any given sport, just before he begins, just to get into your head, because he says it's not about the talent, it's the mind game that you play. And he'll say, I've never lost a game of this. Well, one of my highlights of AMB was beating you at table tennis.
Yeah, but that wasn't like a proper game, though, was it?
Yeah, but on that, one of my highlights of 2024 was beating him at axe throwing, so he's going well for his ball, isn't it, Lindsay? But he never lost because he changed the scoreboard.
Tom, that's not a game. When did axe throwing become a game?
It was a competition.
That's violence. That is.
You know, when they came and did that, you went to the guy who actually was running the event. And you went, I used to do this. I've never lost a game. And the guy was like, really? You were part of the championships? And he totally believed you. I was like, really? Oh,
yeah, but he can do it anywhere he goes. He says it to anybody, and everyone just believes him because he's so good at it.
Pickleball? You play pickleball? That's the new one.
No, I've never played. But in seriousness,
so you've never lost, to be fair.
That Aamia factory is and they might even have some plans for growth there, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more of them with them this year. But next to that, or not next to that, but 10 minutes down the road, is Korea. And actually, me and Joe Amos made exactly the same mistake. We landed in Bilbao, and I was like, I told Javier we'd be there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we landed at 12. I thought it was literally 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We got the car from the rental company. Javier, we'll be there for lunch in 45 minutes. And I couldn't see it, but I could almost, after the event, see Javier looking at his phone thinking, well, how on earth, if you've just got your rental car, you're going to be here in 45 minutes? We put it into the sat-nav, and it was like 200 kilometres, to Burgos, and I was like, Joe, you must have put the wrong. You must have put the wrong.
Hasta mañana. It'll be like you got on Spanish time.
You put the wrong postcode in. He's like, no, I'm sure, and he's sitting there and he's trying. Anyway, yeah, it was 2 hours. But in Burgos, the Correa factory, again, I guess in a theme, in a sense, we went there to look at automation on large machines. So Correa are producing travelling column machines, gantry machines, with a similar philosophy of automation and multi-discipline or multi-process machining. But one of the reasons we went there at the end of October was because they'd sold a machine, a Fox machine, with 4 pallets on it, four huge pallets, yeah. And I heard about the order. In fact, we heard about the order, I think when sometime it was some event that we went to. Anyway, it went into Canada, went to where we went to Elliott Matsura.
Oh, yeah.
So they were the distributor that the machine was being shipped to Canada for a company that were making machines for chopping down trees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it just shows you. But anyway, this machine was a gantry machine, and it had 4 huge tables. There must have been, I don't know, 6 meters by 3 meters, something like that.
You wouldn't think the cycle time needs 4 components,
Well, this,
would you?
no, but this was the thing I said to Javier. I said, well, why, you just take a part off and load another one on. No, but this machine is just going to keep running. They'll load the tables up and they will just keep it running, 24/7 over a year or whatever it might be. But it just shows that with some of the other automation they had there, they had robots loading tools into tool changers. They had machines. They had 2 machines facing each other with one floor bed or floor plate in the ground. So the 2 machines, 2 spindles, basically machining either side of a part. It's very different. But the whole idea is that customers are coming to these companies and saying, look, Korea, we need a machine that's going to mean we don't have to move that part. We don't want to move it around. We need to turn it. We need to get into certain pockets. We need to do this. We need to do that. It's heavy. It's complicated. There's lots of machining features. So we want it all done in one hit. So they're tailoring their machines around automation. Much to the point that every machine me and Joe saw there, and the tour is on our YouTube channel, it's about 25 minutes. Pretty much every machine there had something related to automation. The head changing technology, grinding, pallet systems, robots loading tools.
Constantly
Not something
improving.
you'd associate with a large machine tool, is it?
It isn't. And this was why I think that Korea had an amazing year last year. And they did here in the UK with DTS, but around the world, at Aamia too. And, these companies are really tapping into the fact that their machines can now be automated and people can get the benefit of automation on larger machine technology. So there's another fantastic
Just to add
trip.
to that, Korea had the largest ever machine at Mac.
They did.
Ever placed into the halls of Mac, and it was the Korea Fox.
And it just
that
took them
had been
20 minutes
sold.
to get it in there.
You're joking?
No, that's all it
No,
took.
I thought you were joking.
20.
No, just stop. You're so convincing. What is wrong with
Yeah, but
me?
if Paul would have done it, he'd have done it in 10, and nobody would have beaten him.
No
to
one
do
would
it.
have beaten him.
But
was a highlight
joking
from that.
aside, you couldn't miss it, could you? It's absolutely huge. Bigger than most stands, the machine was.
Yeah, it was
It's
massive.
Huge.
So I was really lucky again last year to be able to go to Italy a couple of times. I went to Italy with Spinner because they opened their first ever facility. What is quite interesting, and I'll say this, is we went over to Italy, got in the car, Ian and myself. We then went to their facility, brand new facility, Spinner facility. However, whilst we were there, we then, in the morning, the next day, we went to one of their case studies. And then in the afternoon, we did another case study. So we did 2 case studies in a day because they were located really close to one another.
What you mean, end users using?
End users using Spinner machines. And that's a really big deal. They've never, ever done anything like that with, MTD before. So we've gone all the way up to Italy. We've done 2 case studies. And in that same time, the very next day, they had their first ever open house to open the whole facility up. And it's amazing to see that over in that specific region, they're having the same issues and the same problems as we do here in the UK. It's interesting because you think, yes, they're servicing different markets because different countries service different markets. But that for me was quite eye-opening to go, wow, they've got the same issues that, someone that I know 10 minutes from where I live is still having the same problem.
Big market Italy as well, isn't it, for machine tool consumption? Bigger than most people will be aware.
It's massive. It's massive. Big for the mould and die sector. Industry in Italy alone is huge. I mean, I think we'd been there a few times to Italy. I don't think I went there last year.
I went to Chelada last year as well. And for me, again, just knowing a little bit more.
What company that is?
Honestly, like it's a company. So Chelada as a company they've transformed industry. They're essentially a company that uses and sells other machine tool brands, but it's all come from one man and it stayed within the family. So I think, forgive me, it's on 3rd generation now, and he is when you speak to him, it's just all about family. They love their Japanese machines and it's all about quality. all about quality is what they say. You know, they've got the Sodic machines, they've got Star machines there as well. You start seeing brands to recognise, but it's about the people and quality.
Because they used to sell the Bridgeport as well,
Yes.
the Bridgeport brand, and I remember that's where I knew of Chelada from when I worked at Bridgeport, obviously because Peter,
Yes.
obviously
Peter Cap.
has history there as well. That looked like a fabulous trip. It's a massive place, isn't it? By from looking at the videos and the films and the amount of kit they have there, which I also find is quite. I think it's quite eye-opening when we look around where we go, how we see these machine brands, but they're sold very differently in different countries.
Yes, they are.
So, you know, one distributor here might have, or Star here, sell the Star machine, but in Italy, Star is supplied by distributor and Chelada. So it's just interesting to see the mix, but Chelada as a European distributor has to be one of the biggest, one of the most successful.
Yeah.
And I know their relationship with Sodic as the reason that you were there is obviously very tight and very very good.
Can we talk a little bit about Sodic as well?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we've spoken quite heavily about Sodic over the last year. They had a launch of the VN machine as well. They talk a lot about saving the customer energy bills, saving on their energy bills. That's a huge thing for them. Yeah. But we did a lot of case studies with Sodic last year. And I must say, everyone just has positive things to say about that company. Everywhere you go, it's the longevity of the machines, it's the reliability of the machines, it's the precision of the machines. You know, I went to Le Locle in Switzerland, again, did a case study. They love them. I think they had like 20 odd Sodic machines.
Oh, was that the
watchmaking?
Yeah,
the watchmaking. Really, that was a trip and a half as well. But for me, that is a huge response that I keep hearing. Wherever we go across the world, there's reliability and precision and accuracy on every single case study.
Yeah, I mean, you have Soditech in the UK,
and
then you have Sodic Europe, and then you have Sodic in America, and you have Sodic Japan. The relationship between Sodic Europe and Soditech in the UK is quite an interesting one, because often people might look and they'll go, well, how does that quite work? So Sodic Europe's headquarters is in Warwick, which is an amazing place.
Yes.
And it's the home of Soditech UK as well. So the two, I guess, two businesses work really seamlessly and really well there. The spares division is incredible. You walk in the showroom and you go, oh my God, this is if I had a showroom, this is kind of what I want it to look like. You know, clean, white, crisp, bright machines everywhere, lots of space. And you go through the doors at the back, and you've got the same again, but it's just full of spare parts and refurbished machines that they do. I think if I had to pick out, collectively we've done a lot with Sodic and Soditech in the last year, but I was impressed to see Tony with Peter Cap at Jimtoff a few weeks ago, where they were talking about the UX high precision, high speed milling machine. It's something a lot of people will not. All the case studies you will have been done would have been wire or Spark.
Yeah, Spark.
Everybody will look at them and go, yeah, that's where Sodic are. That's their machinery, but it's not high speed milling, high precision milling for really small, intricate, complex parts, harder materials. Their machines with their linear drive motor technology, the performance of their machines is incredible. And Peter mentioned on one of these videos that they were holding tolerances of less than 30 microns on a machine that had a 1.9 meter Z-axis, right? 30 microns over that distance. Can you imagine? I mean, it's incredible. All thanks to linear drive motor technology. The machine that was on show that they talked about was the UX650, I think, which is a 4-axis high-performance milling machine. There's a 5-axis coming this year, which I'm sure will be in Warwick at some point. But so it's not just EDM; it's the
injection molding,
and the injection molding too. So,
and when you deal with Sodic, it feels like it almost feels like they're a small company. Just if you know what I mean, almost like this family feel, doesn't it? Every time we go to Warwick, I know you've got the Sodic Europe, like you say. But they're so nice, aren't they? Yeah. You don't often get it with such a large company.
Yeah. Well, you've seen some of the photos from you in Italy. prawns and lobsters and all sorts.
Yeah. No, that was mega. I won't go into all of that, but no, it is mega. Again, I always say it's a privilege to be able to go and see these facilities, but when we do go out to these, it's an honour because we also get looked after like a customer when they're on a trip, because we often go with customers alongside as part of the trip. And we get to see these places, and what an honour it is. It really is. Okay, moving on. So, Tom, another trip from yourself or another company that you highlight?
I'm going to say I'm more looking into events now.
Okay.
I've done my case studies abroad, but we're going to talk about events a little later. So I'll bring it back to some of the things we've done in the UK. It was my first time this year I've ever visited Grob.
Oh, yeah.
First time I've ever been to their factory. And the demo they had on show, upside down machining, it's one of them things, you see it time after time, but it never gets boring.
No.
They'd got I can never say his name, an SK Schleiser tool holder. And essentially it's a collet holder, but it's a precision collet holder because you put an end mill in with a Weldon flat on, and then you put this tiny little brass, I think it is, into the Weldon flat, which then screws the end mill into the collet. So when you tighten the collet, it can't come out, because obviously, as we know, the biggest problem with the collet holder is pull out. And they'd got 100mm end mill finishing this part in one go, and it was just
On what machine, and what was the? Just to elaborate.
Oh, come on, Paul! I cannot remember.
Was it the
must have been one of
G350?
the
G350.
350 was on the left.
And
so was this upside?
Yeah, so the whole part was upside down, and they came in and they finished the whole part in one go. And I was stood, the first time I watched it, I was stood with a lot of customers and suppliers, and the chatter behind me was just, everyone was saying the same thing. How do you get an end mill of that length to cut with no vibration? And it just made no noise. And it just showed how rigid
so
that
the
tunnel concept. It was it's all about that tunnel concept, because with that concept, it comes out the shortest distance possible. So obviously with the end mill, you don't need it out. And they got a very small collet holder in. So they're not got an extender in. And it was just, is how compact everything was, which just made this tool run absolutely perfect. They'd got 5-axis helixing drilling with an end mill, which is just, you can't beat it. It looks amazing.
Tom, how awesome was on the G550 the spinning that component?
It's first time I've seen it.
So and that was on the second demo we were seeing, and obviously it was great to see how you can go from milling to turning, and then obviously they got a Seco turning tip in. And the depth of cut they were taking.
Oh, you got slow-mo.
Dry as well. And that was it. Even on the other demo, it was all aluminium, but 95% was cutting dry. So obviously, we put a few videos on Instagram, LinkedIn, that sort of thing. And you do always get a couple of comments, we can run that faster, whatever. But yeah, the speeds and feeds have to be altered slightly to cutting dry. But it was just the movement and how, if you're doing production and you're leaving that machine running overnight, is what's the biggest thing we always see, and it's swarf build-up, birds nesting, and it's sometimes that won't break at all, but if you need a good surface finish and you've got a bit of swarf dangling in it, with upside down machining, it just gets rid of all of that, and it's like, it's sort of a, why wouldn't you?
That's exactly it, isn't it? When you look at those machines, people don't realise how user-friendly they are, do they? Certainly with the tunnel drilling, tunnel milling aspect, you can drill, the full width of the tool. You can the part, you can spin the part around 180 and go at it from both sides. Now with the turning function, like you say, very user-friendly, and people don't realise how big Grob are, do they?
The whole space in that machine that is just
nothing wasted, is there?
No.
But that upside down machine, I think that's the thing. I think the point you hit on there, it is fabulous and it's great to see. But do you think people will look at it and they're daunted by it because
Definitely.
they're so used to how they?
But the thing is, as well, and I think the other thing we were talking to a lot of suppliers while we were there as well, and a couple of the customers were saying, well, what happens if I just put a normal vise on there? Am I going to pull that material out? And the answer is quite possibly, But if you've got the right tools, you've got the right work
So there's
holding,
other things you need to consider within the mix.
So obviously they were
But
using...
you do if the tools the right way. If it's a conventional machine,
you
you
can
still have
still
to
pull it
consider
out
that.
whatever,
Yeah,
but so they were using a Lang vise, and obviously the material had already been pre-stamped. So for people that don't know, the 5-axis vise comes with teeth in, but Lang actually do a stamping kit. So it stamps the part. So when you clamp that vise, instead of it just being clamped on the part, the teeth actually go into the material. So it can't come out. It cannot move.
But it'd have to be a really crap vice, wouldn't it, for the part to
It is, but it's just what you were hearing from people behind, and it's like the problem is it's like we'll see. You'll see Fred in a shed who's got a vice from 1962 and he's still using it, and it's like it's such a good concept, and it's for people who are doing a lot of aluminium, especially because obviously swarf is always a big problem.
Is it the vision though? Is it like, I mean, again, when the table drops down, if it's machining, is it because maybe people can't see what's happening, or can you? Because it's at
you can see it wherever it is. It's really great because
there should be no difference. Should there?
It shouldn't be. And I was talking to the gentleman who was programming it, and he had actually only been on that machine for 6 months, and he'd done this entire demo.
Was this Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he'd done this entire demo. He'd programmed it all. He'd proved it all out. And he was saying, he was like, look, I've worked on lots of different machines. He says, and programming this is no different. And I think that's another thing. People get daunted by the fact of 5-axis, yes, your table's moving all over, or your head's moving, depending if you've got 5-axis or 3+2. But no other machine goes completely upside down. And he was saying, well, it's really no difference than programming anything else. It says the machine really helps you through it.
And to be honest, all the major cam companies have got posts anyway. So I'm sure there are people out there who do it G-code on the machine, but more than not are going to be using cam anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, and all the posts are there. All the anti-collision stuff was available
Well, that's
as well.
it. Everybody who's using like virtual machine, that sort of thing.
But did you see that You saw that automation?
I was going to come on to that again. Something wrongly I've never really associated Grob with, but this pallet pull, stunning, isn't it? You couldn't actually tell it was like a pallet pull, a tooling carousel and a machine. It looked as one, didn't it?
Was that with the 850 in the other room?
Yeah, next door. And it's the first time it's been. They've got multiple installations here in the UK already, but some big companies with non-disclosure and what have you. So it's the first time it's been available to see to the public, and I think they're going to do really well. Is that the machines are doing well now, but that actual cell with the robot, the added tooling carousel, again returning functionality. This kind of everything. It's a production cell, isn't it? Does everything.
But it's one of them as well. It's a big machine with a lot of capability, but then again with a small footprint. Because for what you get, it's not actually that big. When we look round it, you get so much in that machine.
So that machine, though, it's also got the. I did a solo review on it, which will probably be on our YouTube channel now. But it's got this sort of like fork system in the middle, where you are loading the machine, and you've got your next pallet prepared, ready to go into the machine. Whereas other kind of machines will take a pallet out, put it onto the loading station or unloading station, pick up the next one and put it in the machine. Of course, that's non-cut time.
We've got to look at cycle time then.
Yeah, exactly.
Because obviously that machine's going to be used for production. It's not going to be used for one-offs.
Yeah, you don't want to be waiting for that automated solution to put the next pallet in. So it's like a twin pallet in a sense in an automation solution. You've got the tool carousel as well, where you've got there was an abundance of tools, the tunnel concept. It was really illustrating everything. Fabulous place in Stratford-upon-Avon. If you want to see, they've progressed so well, haven't they, Grob? All out of the automotive sector, which is where the history was, and now they're applying all of those disciplines to every other industry, performance, reliability, and all the rest of it. So it is a great company. But don't forget the egg situation in when we went to Germany. You've got to go to Germany too. Yes. But the eggs and bacon in the hotel.
Do you want me to tell the egg story? Is that what you're trying to say? Do you want the egg story?
Yeah.
So basically,
this is for Carl.
This is for Carl. Yeah. We went to Mindelheim, and Mindelheim, it's fascinating. When you actually go there, you don't ever underestimate the size of this brand as a company. It's something like 70 to 80% of the people who actually live in that town actually work at the facility of Grob. There's a hospital on site. That is how big of a brand they are.
So I almost needed it as
Yeah,
well.
you did well. We turned up outside of this big, huge, tall tower where the Grob family are. They've got 2 layers at the top that people aren't allowed to go to. There's most of the people at the company can never go. They're really, really smart. You're like, wow, this place is mega. It's like going to New York City. So, big deal, big job, going to do a big tour, see the open house, really exciting. We meet Carl from Grob, turns up. And then I look at Paul and spilled down his trousers half of his breakfast, including all of the egg that he'd just eaten for his breakfast. And then Carl turns up and I'm like, oh no, just normally it's Monster Munch down your chest.
I was going to say, you seem to have a theme of dropping things down your trousers.
Yeah.
At least this time it wasn't all over my car at the same time.
He's covered in fluff today.
And the size of his mouth, you think it's impossible.
Right, Lindsay, I've got a story for you just on that.
Just really quickly. So Carl's like, what the? Oh my God. Egg trousers. So from now on, Paul Jones is known as Eggy Trousers.
Every post on LinkedIn, Carl Downing tagged in nice little boiled egg or something. But
Eggy.
I looked down, I was like,
And then
how
you
on
were
earth
trying
did
to
it
get things to remove the egg from your trousers.
But
You're
how
like,
did
give me that.
I don't know
I'm
how
not
it
giving
got
you my
there.
top.
It was in a really sort of awkward
Don't.
place. It was
You're digging a
it's
hole.
like, how the hell did? Yeah.
And you don't even eat eggs.
Well, Lindsay, on this story, I've got another one for you. I once picked Paul up, and it's the only time I picked him up because I've sworn I've never do it again. I picked him up from a train station, and he got in my car with a thing of berries, all nice and healthy, and some yogurt.
Oh no.
So he decided to pour the yogurt on the berries. Fair enough, that's great. And I'm sort of driving along, look down, he's got yogurt on his trousers. I'm like, oh, he must have just spilled it. Next thing, there's yogurt on my door. There's yogurt on the floor. I'm like, what is going off here? Anyway, we got to where we were going. Turns out, the berry part, as they do, have holes in the bottom. And all the yogurt's coming out the bottom. So he's got it trousers, it's over his hand. It's all over the door, floor. I got home and it took me longer to clean the car than probably the job did because there was yogurt everywhere.
Why did you put the berries in the yogurt?
Wait, what?
I can't remember, but it was your yellow Corsa, wasn't it? It was before you
Back
had
when
a
I had
company
Bumblebee.
car. Yeah, before you had a company car. That was a classic. That was when we'd been up to an XYZ show. And
That was when he just opened it.
I mean, those trousers have been through a lot, you know.
We've been through a lot.
The best thing was we got there and the first thing Paul was like, don't see anyone, just ran into the toilet, cleaned them up, come back out, reset, go back in.
The funniest one about the Grob open house, though, in the hotel we stayed in, there was this really nice spa swimming pool. So it was Joe Amos,
I've got a
Chris,
story
and
about that.
you. So Joe Amos said, he says, I didn't bring my shorts. I said, look, mate, go and buy some shorts from this spa shop. So he buys these swimming shorts. We go in the pool, we're swimming around, and then there's an outdoor pool. But when you go outside, what you have to do before you get in the pool is you take your slip-on shoes off or whatever, your flip-flops. So me, Joe, are in the pool, and these other guys in the pool. When we get out, I walked back into the inside area, and I said, "Oh, Joe, I've left me flip-flops outside. Can you go and get them?" So poor old Joe goes out into the outside area. There's these guys sitting there on the edge of the pool. And Joe goes and puts his feet into this other. He said, "What colour are?" I said, "Those brown ones. They're brown." So he puts his feet into this bloke's shoes and walks off. And this guy's like, "Right." I can't remember the German phrase he used.
Yeah, you probably don't want to either.
You know what? That same. Come on, carry on.
Joe.
Were you genuine or was it a stitch up?
I was a complete stitch up. Absolute stitch up, head to toe. I walked out. I thought, I'm going to get him to put those. Flip flops on.
This is why anytime you tell me to do something like that, I just know.
No.
That is why we work with the leading HR company.
I was at that same hotel, and I've never, obviously in Germany, a lot of people at the spas, they don't wear clothes, and in the UK, that's not as natural.
Oh, don't.
Right. So I was at the same hotel with Joe Amos and Chris, and we were covered up, and we went into the sauna. And then this gentleman came in, obviously not wearing any clothes, and was walking. No, it was a different trip, and walking past. And I just find me personally, because of the way we are as Brits, but being with your colleagues and seeing male parts is quite like walking around in front of you. We couldn't say anything. There was nothing that we could say. You know, it's not as natural, is it, in the UK as going out to Germany and seeing people.
You seem
with no
disappointed,
clothes
Paul.
I wasn't on that trip. I don't know.
I was waiting for the bit where she went, and it was Paul.
Oh,
Anyway, this is an excellent story. But
right.
we move on.
Oh, moving on. Okay, so events as well. I mean, there is some more trips abroad. That
Well, I
we've
just
been
want to
on
talk
as well.
briefly,
Oh,
if we could, about Stag, because
Yeah.
I think last year there was a few events or a few overseas factories I went to, and on 3 occasions I went with Stag to three different factories of theirs. And the first one was actually early part of the year, in fact, just after the DMG Mori open house. And this was to Boomertech, where they make their multitasking, small, compact, high-speed, high-performance kind of mill turn centres. And we went there with a vision, and this is what's quite interesting compared to some of the other stuff that we do. We focus purely on application. So we went there and we had a mission to look at 16 different parts that are made on these machines. And these parts varied from, and it was so interesting because it was like, they call them femoral balls, I think they are, that go into joints and hip joints and knee joints and, everything, all these medical kind of implants. And this is the types of machines that they're machined on. And to see all these parts being made, how they're made, and the machines that they're made on and how those machines are made was really, really fascinating. And they, they'll sell machines into the automotive, to the medical sector, for avionics as well, but all for really kind of, I guess, complex parts. And then we're making a gyroscope. You know what a gyroscope is?
Inside a gimbal, isn't it?
The balancing bit.
Yeah.
But the precision you have to machine the parts, the componentry. In fact, it was all machined in one hit because obviously it needs to be, because there's so many parts that are relating to each other. But this gyroscope was just one of many, many fascinating parts machined there. So a lot of times we go to factories and we see a machine and we look at a machine and that's great and that's big, but we don't actually necessarily dig into the application and the part. So we created 16 of these movies which were all about these parts, how they were made, how fast they were made, the challenges in when they're being made. But really, I guess it then shows off the capabilities of the Boomertech machine. But
I've never seen Chloe, who works for us. She's an engineer as well, and she interviewed the team at Stag at Mac, and I have never seen someone's face so shocked and astounded by some of the complexity of components. She was just, at one point, she just stared and just looked at this component. She was just blown away.
Yeah. Where did you go, Paul? And you did that. You did a bit of a quiz on LinkedIn of this part. I know what it is, but I don't want to say. I want to see if you remember this huge part. Yeah. I'm sure you were with Stag, and you went, "Can anybody guess what this is?"
Yeah, that was last year as well. It was something to do with an aircraft.
It was an aircraft door.
That's
right.
right.
It was a door, because you put a
pole
on.
It'd all been 3D printed,
and that thing was unreal.
Yeah.
Like what it looked like, you couldn't even tell it was 3D printed.
No,
it just looked like it'd been machined.
I picked, and that's again, I guess the 2 other visits I made. So that was the one to Boomertech, and I was in Switzerland there, and that was in February, and it was snowing, and me and Ian and Lee actually went up on a cable car.
How much did you enjoy that, Paul, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Honestly,
I wouldn't fancy that.
I know this story.
It's not so much the height to me; it's that being trapped in that cart. For me, it was the sort of like. It's being trapped. I was in this cable car for like probably, 20 minutes.
I remember talking to Lee about it.
And I'm just sitting there going, what happens if this thing stops? What happens if this, and I can't, I just don't.
Do you not have any eggs in your pocket? You could just.
Well, I spoke to Lee afterwards, and he was saying that he wanted to try and get you to do it again because it was so funny watching you the first time.
I was just uncomfortable. I was just like, I really don't. I looked at it. We'd finished up quite early, and the guys were like, look, we're not flying till 8 o'clock at night. Let's go and see some of the local areas, and let's go up in this cable car. And I'm thinking, not so sure about that. And then we got to the first one, and it was shut. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
no. No, a bit like that Del Boy thing.
Like
It goes up in a hang glider.
Literally like Rodney.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, really?
No.
And then Lee's like, no, don't worry, there's another one just up the road. And then we get up to this other one, and we go up. To be honest, when we got to the top, it was absolutely beautiful.
Did you ski back down?
We had to come back down again. So I'm thinking all the time up there, and I've got to get that damn thing to go back down again. But it was a really great experience. But the thing you were talking about there, Tom, was 1 or 2 parts that I saw at 2 other trips to Stag. One was that aircraft frame door, printed and then finished machined.
But wasn't it that because they 3D printed it, it was as strong as being machined, but a lot lighter?
That's the other I can't remember. You might be right on that. I can't remember the detail. But
I remember reading your post. That's all.
Yeah, the one that was more, I guess, in my mind, was probably the best post I did on social media last year. In my entire year, was a Blisk, which is basically a disc with blades on for the aircraft for the aerospace industry. And instead of these things are generally machined on Stag machines, but this one was actually, it had the disc and then they printed the blades on it and then they machined the blades rather than machining the blade or machining it all from one piece. Yeah. And the saving, in fact, I wrote it down. It was something like 50% faster and 30% cheaper, but I can't remember.
Well, that's it, because you think if they're putting a billet on to then machine it all off, the waste in material compared to you 3D printing it, you're putting on just a tiny amount more to then machine off.
And there was no apparently no issues in the critical elements of the part. I mean,
I do think that's one though for and it's something I noticed last year when we were talking about 3D printing. It seems to be coming like there was a lot of people, oh, I'll never get it, it'll never come. But it's getting there now, and it's as strong as if as a billet, it's easier to machine. Like I know there was a few problems at the start where you'd machine it and you'd find holes in it, but technology's there now.
I think technology is good enough. It's just down to like litigation things now, isn't it?
You know, with the structure. So for me, my question here is when they're say building and printing, they can actually build a structure within, so it doesn't actually have to be solid either.
Yes, they can put a webbing inside it.
A web, and then that can actually technically be stronger because of the structure of...
Well, look at a bridge. A bridge isn't solid, is it? It's built up of a series of triangles or various other shapes because it's stronger.
You learned that was the strongest form, isn't it? Triangles.
And that's essentially what they do with 3D printing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honeycomb, triangle.
Honeycomb, that's the word, yeah.
And the third place. What's the third place? Because you said two.
So the one there with the... that blew my mind. That did. When I looked at that with Lee, I was like, "What? This Blisk with machining the Anyway, so, but then the third place was when I went with them to the eastern side of Germany, which is where we saw the aircraft door frame. But that was and that was actually focused on transport and industry. So it was the big machines, it was the heavier parts, it was fixturing for axles, and it was but 3 trips overseas with Stag, more this year to come as well. Their tech days are amazing, again, the hospitality, but the technology, all of it is really great.
Should we move on to events now, because there's still quite a few other trips that we were privileged to be able to go on as well, but let's cover some of the events. Well, Mac, that was a huge event, wasn't it? It always is. So we've done Mac. Obviously, that's not happening this year. It'll be on next year.
Soon be here, though. Soon be here.
I know, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? But
obviously, just look how fast last year went.
Let's talk about AMB, though, because for me, we went out to AMB last year, and I found there was a really big difference between AMB and EMO. AMB was more heavily a industry for its native country, Germany, whereas AMB, I feel, is more of a global... Sorry, EMO is more of a global show. Am I correct there?
Essentially, AMB is the German Mac, isn't it?
Yes.
Is what you'd say. But, and I really don't want to offend anyone, and I hope I don't, but... You talk to people who went, because let's not forget IMTS is on at the same time as AMB.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we didn't go to IMTS. Our American counterparts did. And Tony had a great time. Some of the videos from there are absolutely amazing. But if you talk to a few of the people who went to IMTS and AMB, because there's a lot of people who do both.
Yeah.
IMTS is great, but it's more of like a social event. It's more about just everybody getting together, where AMB is technology led. It's all about the next innovation.
Yeah.
There was a couple of companies who brought out world premieres at AMB who were also at AMB, also at IMTS, but didn't take that machine to IMTS. Which is really strange. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but AMB this year was just... I don't know for anybody else, but I just thought it was absolutely incredible. I was there 2 years ago. And it's an amazing show. It's my favourite show out of all the ones we do.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe we can go to IMTS next time, then you can compare. But when you look at
Maybe. Did you hear that? I heard
Maybe.
that.
It's another maybe in it.
It's
I'm
another
just.
maybe.
I'm going to
Definitely
start
maybe.
writing. I'm going to have to get contracts in here
Dangling
every
these
time.
carrots.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Right, can we put Joe in a corner? I've already had Paul in one. Let's get Joe in it.
They say it's the world's biggest swarf cutting show, don't they? So there's very little, and it's all to do with our world, really. Some of these other Mac, IMTS, some of these others, the CNC machining, fabrication, and they are starting to broaden. Whereas AMB, they've stayed in their lane. It pretty much sells out straight away. So if you look, I bet you it's pretty much sold out already for next year. Next year, that'll come around quick, won't it? But no, I agree with you. I like AMB. It's accessible. It's right by the airport there. You know, you might be hall 1 to 18. Sounds a long way, but it's easy to get to. Do you know what I mean? There's not a lot of wasted
It's just
time.
really easy to
and the
go up
technology
one,
that was
across and
there.
come back down the other.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of good things. I saw lots of good things there. I saw the iJaw, which is basically, as it sounds, it's basically an Industry 4.0 chuck, really. So you can measure clamping force. That was sensational. Also, the Lang, obviously Lang have had automation for some time now. They're just launching a compact one. In fact, it's due to land any time now. It's a video that Tom did with the guys over there. Fantastic product, up to 100 components. You can 100 of the same or 100 different components, and it's on a 2 meter square footprint, so tiny.
Can you move it from machine to machine?
You can, yeah. I'd get one each per machine personally, but you think 2 square meters and you've got 100 parts in that.
The thing is as well about that system, what makes it different and what makes it easy about other systems on the market is when you program the robot to pick devices up, once you've programmed that once, you never program it again, because the robot picks the device up. Doesn't pick the part up, it picks the device up in the same place every single time. So it doesn't matter what you have in that vice. And like Joe said, you can run all the same component.
So you've got to put all your parts in a vice.
Yeah.
And then load devices.
Exactly. But the thing is, it's all on a trolley system. So you pull the trolley out, you load it all up, you push it back in. And it's all done. There's no hydraulics, there's no nothing. It's all just done off a sub-program.
One of the guys at Rigging Projects who I met, and they've just transferred everything across to Lang, and they've got that printing machine that you said, the stamper, and he said, best thing I've ever done. And I said, oh, can we just get that on video? And I'd love to. And I've never seen anyone so enthusiastic about Lang.
The thing is about the stamping machine, it's actually being used now for something Lang never thought it would do, where people are stamping it, and then obviously we've been there. You'll machine a part, you'll take it off, you'll measure it, and go, oh, wait a minute, that's not quite in tolerance. People are using the stamping to put it back in the vice, to put it back in the vice, and not clock it up. Put it back in, clamp it, run it again. Where before you'd have to put it back in the vice, clock it all up, reprogram it. The position on the stamper is so accurate.
Very accurate, yeah.
It's within. I'm sure it's. If I remember the specs, and it's within 3 microns of you taking it out and putting it back in.
Yeah, it's very accurate, very accurate. Incidentally, we're doing a lot with Lang this year. Obviously, historically, we've done lots on there.
Because I think they've done. This is an interesting point. I think they've done so well with their vices that's what everybody knows them for. Do they know them for the other things that they do?
Well, that's the campaign this year. We're still going to, don't get me wrong, we're not going to forget about the vices. We need to keep bashing that drum, but they've got some wonderful automation products, and that's their key focus this year, and we're a big part of that, which is good. We've got this year it's going to be good. Lots more
the
automation
RoboTrex
in the market.
Automation cell is a plug and play system, because it obviously you've got to plug it into the machine, but it's a simple cable. But before, where you needed hydraulics or air, you don't need any of that. It's all done just off a sub-program. So you program your part, you drop this code in, you program your next one, and away it goes. It is so simple, and that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
I mean, AMB is a good show, and I agree. We are so close to the airport, and again, we probably should tell people this when they're watching, because we take it for granted that we go there all the time, but just a flight to Stuttgart, you're literally... Well, you're a walk across and the event's there.
And there's an 8 p.m. flight as well, so you could literally go for the day.
Go for the day, yeah. And there's, say, 8, 10 halls. I can't remember exactly how many, but there's and they're all just next to each other. You sort of cross the concourse 2 to 4 to, I guess the only bugbear I would have with it is the hotels, which is the same as emo.
Yeah,
it's
quite
always
difficult.
a pain. You know, even if you're looking a year in advance.
Let's
to
not
get a
talk about
hotel.
hotels that you've put in us in, Paul. Let's move on from there, or lack of hotels
you know,
that you've put us in.
I thought it was only 10 minutes, but it was no. But seriously, getting to them on the trams is not too difficult.
I'm talking about the emo hotel that you,
Emo
that,
hotel,
you know,
what was
the
that?
place where someone like.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Well, you can't have. That's the problem with emo is that you generally these people are vacating their houses.
I
and
thought
you're
it was
booking-
fine, Paul.
Yeah, I said right.
I can't really say anything about
And-
A&B.
and
My
you-
hotel was bang across the road.
Yeah, yours
Yeah,
is
you
fine.
seem to
Yeah,
be in
mine
that one,
wasn't,
yeah.
just so you know, and there was some dodgy stuff going on outside, but we'll move on from that. Right, okay, just to kind of cover off some of the last topics as well is maybe some highlights of what we've covered, but open house season is around the corner. I know you're chomping at the bit to kind
Now,
of say something. Go
just
on.
before we move on, I've got one more story about A&B, and it is probably my favourite interview I've ever done. Happened at A&B, and it was on the Seric stand. Now, a lot of people know, obviously, I was on the machines before I came to MTD, and I used to use a lot of Seric tooling. Now, I don't know if you've seen this. I know you two have, because I know Joe messaged me afterwards, where I interviewed a guy called Dr. Iru. I'm sure that's how you say his name. I'm really sorry if it's not. And we were talking about aluminium tools. Now, we were stood next to this box with 3 aluminium face mills, insert tools on one side, and 3 aluminium end mills on one side. Now, I'd used all these end mills. I'd never used them. So I started the interview off interviewing this guy, and he talked about all of these indexable tools, told me all about them, pros, cons, whatever. When it came to doing the end mills, he stopped me talking and reversed the interview and then interviewed me on them tools.
Oh, wow.
Was he better than you?
Yes, he was a better presenter.
Yeah.
So
So we
halfway
need to,
through
like,
this interview,
where is he? What's his name again? You know.
but the best thing was I didn't know he was going to do it. Him and his marketing manager Norbert had proper and well and truly stitched me up here because they knew what they were going to do. Joe Amos, our cameraman, he knew what they were going to do. So everybody knew but me. So yeah, so as we were doing this, and then I asked him his last question, and then he took a step forward, turned to the camera, walked up, and introduced the video again,
Yeah.
and said, I'm gonna present this, and interviewed me on the tools.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it was the strangest but funniest moment of A&B this year, and it was really great, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. He was so knowledgeable.
He's our next presenter.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
If
He's
we get
taking
his
my
name
job.
correct. Yeah, there we go.
I'm not going to any German events this year. He's doing them all for me.
Maybe you might.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
We don't know.
Oh, I'm not liking this carrot, Lindsay.
Sorry. Right, okay, open house events as well. We've just come out of open house season, of course, always to the back end of the year. Some people are going out to events, you know, like Mac and exhibiting there, but some people are actually pulling the events back to their own businesses and companies. There has been a real shift in the past few years. But open house events, always very busy. We're always excited to go out because people are obviously always launching a new product at an open house event. So any highlights from yourselves at all?
Where do you start? Obviously, the Fanuc is always a highlight. Obviously, we do a lot at the Fanuc open house, but just the size of it, the amount of people that go. What I like about it, you get lots of different people. It's not just CNC machining. You get some people interested in the EDM, the injection molding, the automation, of course, of Fanuc. And it's such a diverse range of people. Normally you get these open houses and you know who they are. If you don't know the faces, you recognise the companies. Whereas you go to Fanuc and quite often, it's some people you don't know, which is always refreshing. But yeah, lots of technology on show. And I know we're not meant to mention the food, but the food was great at Fanuc, wasn't it?
Well, it's a broad offering. I mean, not the food, but the event. You've got, like you say, robotics, but pick and place systems, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the food and beverage sector or whether you're in, interested in industrial robots, cobots, or whether you're a CNC machine. There is something for everyone, and the mission is to obviously talk about UK automation, and it's something that we've talked a lot about Europe on this podcast, and also stuff that we do here in the UK. But we are behind. We are well behind
Massively.
and Fanuc do a very good job of trying to educate a very broad audience as to the benefits and the reasons why we should automate. But I did a few podcasts last year on a more UK industry sort of kind of debate level, and some of the things that we fall behind our European counterparts on and other places
Global.
around the world is we just don't have the amount of robots per person as other countries. And we don't have the same security in some of the contracts that we have here in this country, which would allow us to go and invest in robotics and automation. So there's lots of things we're not good enough at in this country, and the Fanuc event is a really good voice for that. But also the technology that they showcase as well. Over 1,000 people there. Of course, you did a great job. The whole team did a great job at streaming it live. We put on the whole event. It's an important fixture.
Yeah, we also, just to heads up on that one, what's really, really important with Fanuc is industrial strategy and talking to government and actually speaking to some of the biggest brands in the UK and talking about how on earth are we going to be able to bring the next generation through when we're struggling already with that, and what strategies they've got in place to try and bring younger people through apprenticeships. And it's actually that level of discussion that we're talking about, and bringing people who are trying their best to bring young people into industry through schools, what level of schooling, what level of education, and there's a real depth to the topics of discussions that are happening there. So if you are in that area, interested in that area, and what I think surprises me is how much help is out there to educate parents as well of people, young children coming through the ranks, and how much help there is out there with apprenticeships. You think, it's easy to blame industry and it's easy to do that. Actually, industry is doing a lot right now to try and encourage more and more people to get into industry, and how we can automate. Yeah.
I think the thing about Fanuc as well is it's not and I just want to go on to a quick case study I've just recently been on, is it's not a buy and a sell thing with Fanuc. If you go with Fanuc, you enter into a partnership, and that really goes to a company I've just visited called Loop Technology. Now, I can't really say too much about it because everything was under NDAs and stuff, but they had just got from Fanuc the 2 largest Fanuc robots ever brought into the UK, the M2000i. Now, if you saw a picture of me or cameraman Chris stood next to one of these things, they are enormous. When they actually deliver them into the factory, they have to have them laid down because they can't get them in. And they were using two of these robots to lift this piece of equipment. That's as much as I can say. But a lot of when we were there were saying was they wouldn't have got quite to where they've got to now without Fanuc and Fanuc's knowledge and help. So again, Fanuc are doing a lot for the industry in apprenticeships, getting young people in, but they're also doing a lot for industry when they're talking to customers, because they're using their knowledge and their expertise to help them, which obviously means the customer can do more than they thought they could before.
Yeah, and system integrators as
system
well.
integrators, yeah. That's just one of the events. I mean, there was so many in that last quarter. There always is. You get back off your holidays and you go, it's September. We've got either AMB, EMO, IMTS.
In the blur.
Then we've got, Star, Herco,
Matsura,
Mills, CNC, all these companies having their open houses. I mean, the Matsura kind of went early last year, didn't they? In June, you were there. Another fabulous place in Colville. I mean, they've just introduced their new MX 520 with turning. Yes. So the MX range.
Wasn't that something to do with Dominic? Didn't he have quite a big say?
Well, he sits on like the steering committee, doesn't he? So Dom's been in this business in the business of machine tools for so many years, and at Matsura too, and he's so well respected that he's there, and he's telling the guys what he thinks, not just what we need in the UK, but what industry needs in general. MX330, I mean, how good has that machine been? 5-axis with 10 pallets in a very small footprint off of the back of the 520, which was, I can't believe that was one of the first videos we did back in the... I still look at the MX 520 and think it's only a few years old, but it's not. It's probably 12, 13 years old, and there's videos of me and Dom doing it. I mean, Dom has aged, but I hadn't, but he had. But I look at those videos, and then I saw him at the Gym Top.
Do you want to keep your customers poor?
I saw him at Gym Top with doing an interview with Tony, talking about this MX 520 with turning function.
I know what video.
And now how you've got a machine there with a pallet system, so you've got automation, you've got 5-axis machining. And now you don't have to take that part off or put that part on turned already. You can basically turn, machine, everything all in one solution. I'm guessing that will come on the 330 at some point, but it's on the 520 at the moment. And Yeah, I think. In fact, I think they're showing that. Didn't you say they're showing that machine at Southern Manufacturing, which is an event that's happening?
I've never seen anyone sell like Dom because he knows exactly the benefits of his product. So he doesn't go into a business in a sense and just have to. He just knows the solution and what those machines can do. And he's saying, like, if you want to, he doesn't go in to try and sell a machine. He goes in to try and say, like, what is it you want from this? Because I can just find something for you that will just transform your business. And it's interesting that we go out to so many case studies that just vocalize exactly what Dom's done. Like, he goes in, he knows that they can transform a business. He knows what they can do. And I mean, their case studies are just the amount that we do.
I think one of the best case studies that was on the channel last year in terms of its performance was the Superstar Components.
Oh, that's my
great story.
Or Neil.
Can I just say that is my favourite video interview I've ever done. Is that one with Neil? I didn't even get a red mic in front of him. I literally lapelled him up. This guy, he runs his own business, and I've never been into so many companies after where they've told me about that they've watched that video. It's just Neil, one guy, his wife. I think they're on to their 4th child now. It's crazy. It's him, his wife. Sometimes he has other people come and work for the business, but he's got 3 Matsuras there. I don't know if he's got any more now. Then he's got a couple of XYZs. He's got a Fanuc machine. All in all, he's probably got 10 machines, and he runs all of them by himself. And every single time, that pallet pool in that Matsura is just full. And it's one guy. Isn't that extraordinary?
It's what we see around as well. And how does that compare to other companies that are employing? I'm not decrying saying you shouldn't employ people. You know, of course, it's how the world goes around. It's how industry works. But he's got this kind of, from what I saw, from taking a look, from looking in almost, was him just on his own. And his philosophy was, I'm doing this on my own. All I want to do is invest in kit. And not people. Would that be right?
100%. And that is his way, and he's successful. The way he thinks is very different. And it's when I do an interview, often I'm pulling information out of people, but he was there going, no, I do it this way, I do it that way, I do it this way. And he was so confident in how he does things and how he can see things. He sees machining differently. He's got a talent there. And he's got the right kit for him and his business. And wow, I go into other companies and they always reference that video. It's my favourite video.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? It's my favourite. It's one of my favourite videos, but I really loved it.
It was a good year, wasn't it? 2024.
Yeah. And then you had the Star Open House as well.
Yes.
Where we looked at the SK51, which was the one of the first times I had seen it before, but it's the first time I'd really seen it in the UK. Them stepping into having this fixed head twin turret solution, which is very different to what Star would offer as a sliding head solution. Lots of Star customers will be watching, and they have to go and look at other suppliers for a fixed head machine. Now they can look at Star and not just have a bank of sliding heads, but have the fixed heads with it too. That was a great event, and they always come to the party with something interesting and different. And Steve and his team do a brilliant job at that.
They're all about people.
The screwdriver.
Yeah, that Chaz created. Yeah.
Great giveaway.
Yeah.
I didn't get one. Did you?
I didn't go.
No,
I didn't.
I did.
You might go next time.
Oh,
you might. You got one,
I
but
did.
it was and I think what they do at those events is they really think in advance about what people would want to come and see, not just the machine, but the parts, the applications, what they can make, and really something a little bit interesting, and that's what they do.
And the skills within their applications team to actually assist and help when you buy a machine, what you get behind all of that. I think that's where people have to lean on that team quite well. And I just think that's what Star are all about, is about the people.
Yeah.
Just kind of echoing what I said, and I think we'll have to round up now because we're going on, and the thing is we've tried to condense a whole year. I know you're chomping at the bit again, Tom, 1 second. But is case studies, and I think that's why I enjoyed the video so much that I was talking about, is the fact that we go out to companies, we get real case studies, unbiased, real case studies. We'll go in, we'll say we'll ask someone about what their latest investment has been. It's real life, problems, solutions, and I think that's what I love about working at MTD, is you go into a company and you find out why have you bought it. It's not just a case of I've bought it, oh yeah, it was cheap. people don't buy for that reason now. It's a case of what was happening in your business. And I think we're going through quite a transformative era now. And I think that's what we've seen in 2024 is people changing their mindset of going, no, I'm not just buying a machine. I need to automate it. Industry 4.0. We're going into that next phase. I'm hoping that you'd agree, because that's what I've picked up from this year.
Just before we finish, I just want to talk about two things just quickly, because I missed one.
I've got loads, so you've got loads of time. You keep going.
So we, me and Elliot went back to Germany again, and we went to Euroblek. Now, I've never been to Euroblek. I didn't even know what Euroblek was. It's all fabrication. And we went to visit Prima Power. Now, they had something on their stand I have never seen before. They had a complete automated cell, complete from start to finish. They didn't just have, they had a few individual machines, but they had a complete cell of bending, planing. This thing had everything. And they were giving something away. At the end of this, it was being made all the way through. They were giving away a full working cabinet.
Right.
And I don't mean a little one. I mean, this thing was like 1/2 meter by 1/2 meter. And
to who?
people's
Not
faces.
not to everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoever wanted one. They just had them. They were printing constantly for the whole time Euroblet was running. It was just printing over and over. It never stopped. Never stopped.
What,
Even through the night.
printing the cabinet?
Yeah. So even through the night, when everyone else got home, this thing was still running.
Right.
They kept it running the entire show to show what it can do. And these cabinets were just lined up.
What do you mean a cabinet? What with drawers in?
Yeah. No, just like a, like a key cabinet, what you'd put stuff in.
Yeah.
But this thing was like 1/2 meter by 1/2 meter. But they'd made it flat pack, so you got it home and then you just put it together.
Travel luggage.
But what was funny, right, was on the side of it, they were putting like a bit of paper that said Prima Power in it. All these people walking through Euroblek with this cabinet under their arm, it was like, you get like sometimes you get a screwdriver, you get little giveaways, something you put in your hand. This thing was huge. People were putting them in there, like taking them home.
But it was
stuff.
made in a flat, and then you had to assemble it.
Essentially, they printed all
Flat
the parts,
laser formed,
and then they, so all lasered everything, and they showed you what it looked like, and they gave you instructions on how to put it together. But it was like, this thing was huge. Who was going to take one home on a plane? Yeah. But people were.
Yeah.
People were taking them. And I spoke to Barry and
did you get one?
No, because we'd only gone for a couple of days, so I only took a little suitcase. Right. Otherwise, I probably tried to bring one home.
Yeah, you'd be one of the people.
Well, maybe you can go next time.
Yeah, I tell you what, if I go to all these maybes next year, I'm never going to be here. But it was just, it was a full fabrication event, and it was something I'd never really looked into, and it was.
Did you see?
It was so eye opening.
I haven't been to. Did you go?
Some of the machines were just.
We've been before. Yeah.
I'm sure it. But what amazes me is the speed of like punching, the speed of bending, the speed. They're like, these things are like ETG with their derma and stuff like that.
Well, they just come up with a new technology where normally you get like, let's say you get a meter by meter square sheet, and then they print the middle out of it.
Yeah.
So then you're left with all the outer bit. They've got some new technology, and Barry was explaining it in one of the videos. If you watch one of the videos, which are on the YouTube channel now, I've seen them, where they'd figured out how to move each part. So
no waste.
there was no waste, nothing. They were printing right up to corners and everything.
Well, like nesting software.
Yeah, there was no waste at all, and it was like, from their customer's perspective, the cost to get rid of the waste, this was like a game changer for them. And then they had a laser machine there, which was the fastest laser machine on the planet because of linear rails. And
Joe's got that software in his brain for when he eats, so there's no waste left on his plate. How does that work, Joe?
No, yours is all down your trousers.
Yeah. How do you avoid? You got a plate full of and you manage to clean the whole thing.
We have the same amount of food, but I consume yours. You spill half of yours.
And then you put them in a bowl that has no holes in the bottom. Just to echo your point with Prima Power as well, what I found interesting when I went out there is the fact that, a lot of, they're not just a lone machine now. They connect the machines from one to the next. So you've got one process onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. And a lot of the time you've just got this finished component and it blows your mind.
Well, they've actually brought automation as well.
That's what I mean.
They've got a robot running on one as well. So normally, obviously, bending is a time-consuming process.
A person.
You need a person. And the thing is, it's not as easy as it looks. You've got to have somebody who is trained. It is. He was showing me how it's done, and making sure you bend it in the right way so you can still bend the other bit, or if you bend that bit, then you can't get it in. And he says the problem is now, and obviously we know with the skills gap, people just aren't there anymore. So they had now started using robots to do it. Yeah. And it was like, and the thing is as well, and obviously setting that machine is a bit of a time-consuming process. They got the machine setting it, the robot setting it. It was just
fast. We look in the main, and we're going to be doing a lot more with laser and fabrication this year. In fact, we've got quite a few companies that we're talking to and we be working with. But we talk about how things move in the machining, milling,
this is
turning
what I said.
centres.
It's been really transformative.
That's a journey in itself in that area. Yeah,
it was just eye opening, and like I said, it was just we go to a lot of events and open houses. And events across the globe, and I don't know if you all feel the same, but I feel like this last year, a lot more companies are not dry cutting anymore. If you go to any open house this year, they were all cutting metal. If you went to most of the events last year, they were cutting metal. Where I've been to events previous where everything's just ghosting.
I think they're forced to. I think there's an element of I think. You know, that's what engineers want to see. That's what machinists want to see. They want to see machines in action in the way they would be in their factory. I also get that for a machine tool supplier, they don't want to be using their machine in a way that could then, you know, turn it into a second-hand machine essentially. So there's a balance. But I agree. I think exhibitions on the whole last year, the ones we went to were, Beam. We went to Beam.
Fantastic.
In June in Spain. What an amazing event that was. You know, for the local market. There's so much industry in the Basque area. AMB, you mentioned IMTS. We had the Mills CNC Open House as well. Which
the Herco Open House. They got. I was going to mention Herco just for my last point, but the Herco Open House this year, me and Chris went, and you talk to David, and David always tells you. The thing with David is he's always real. He tells you what the industry's like. There's no fluff there. He tells you what it's like. But when you're there, every single machine they had there was cutting something. They didn't have any machine just stood. They had all their applications engineers were there, and it actually it's a really good thing, but it makes it really hard for us because we're trying to grab them to interview, and you couldn't grab them because it was so busy. There was so many customers there who wanted demos on this and that. And the thing with their applications engineers is they know everything about their machines. Now, I ran Hercos for quite a while. And I did a video with Abby. She hated me that day because I was constantly chasing around with this mic. And we were talking about this machine, and Chris, bless him, I am going to make a machinist out of him. And at one point he says, I was listening and I had I did not know a clue what you were saying. He says, you two just went into your own little language. And it's great that you can do that with them. And customers were coming over who have Hercos and they have problems, and everybody knows everything. And they've got guys from, not Germany, Sweden. They got a Swedish guy there because they got Swedish customers coming over. So they brought in a Swedish Herco applications engineer to talk to them.
Yeah. It's a great place, though, isn't it? It's a great place they've got in High
Wycombe. It is, but the thing is, like you said, the place in High Wycombe is, it's not just about Herco on the day. It's about them and their partners. They are so partner orientated while you're there.
What was the machining demo you said that you?
So they had a machining demo on a VM10i, which is one of their small machines. They've got a VM1, they've got a VM5, but a VM10 is quite a small machine. I think it's about 600 in X, 400 in Y, 400 in Z. It's quite a small. It's a really compact machine. And they were trying. They weren't trying. They were showing how much grunt you could get from that machine. With one of their partners, SGS Tooling, Casera, they'd got, it was either a 6 or a 7 flute. I'm sure it was a 7 flute M mill. 25 mil deep. This thing was a 16 mil M mill, and they were full slotting with it. Now that brings its own problems. Obviously, a 7 flute M mill, as soon as you get swath in there, they normally snap. So it showed off what SGS Tooling could do, but also showed off what the machine could do. And not just that, the one thing about a Herco is, which sets it apart from most, is its control. That Winmax control, that conversational programming, is second to none. The things you can do on it, you can do, I want to say simple 3D shapes, but somebody who's really good at a Herco can do anything. You can program 3D shapes into the control, so you don't need a CAD-CAM system. and they were doing all these different types of demos. They got a 42 SRTI, which is their 3+2, but then they got another one, a 30 UI, which is a big trunnion table. So they got this big trunnion all moving around, this full demo, all programmed off the control, no CAD CAM involved. They got a VMX 60 with a trunnion table bolted on. It wasn't what we call, I can't remember what you call them, the normal trunnion. This was like a 4-axis on the machine. Again, all programmed off the control. They got a DCI 500 full simultaneous 5-axis machine. Again, all programmed off the control, just to show what sets them apart. And again, like I said, you talk to David, you talk to any of the applications engineers, and
they know their
they
stuff.
know everything. They know their stuff, and it was really great to see. You got other demos with Dorma Pramit running their tooling, work holding from all different people. Michael work holding on one, Tame work holding on another. It was amazing, and as I always get to come away with something little.
Much.
The lady from SGS, I was talking to her afterwards because obviously I wanted to know the specs on the tools they were using, because they got 3 machines running SGS tools, so many machines running Dorma, so and so. And I'd seen this demo, it was really impressive, so I wanted to know about the tools, because as you know, an engineer, a machinist is always, you want to know, how have you done that? I want to do that, how do I know? And I just happened to mention, I said bye at the end of the day, and I just happened to mention I was nipping to the car to get my bottle, because I was going to fill it with water, because coming out of High Wycombe is always a nightmare at that time of night at 5, 6 o'clock. And she went, oh, you want a bottle? She went, oh, wait a minute. And I could hear her rummage about. She gave me, and everybody's seen them now, the big Stanley cups.
Oh, yes.
One of them with SGS all on the side of it. And it was like, it was great. But even from Herco, I always come away from Herco with something. I've come away with a Darth Vader.
Because you love Herco. Because you work.
When I got invited to me and Gio went to their golf day about 3 or 4 years ago.
I bet you didn't lose it though, did you? I bet you won it.
Do you know
never
what?
got invited again.
No, seriously, this God's honest truth. I won closest to the pin. Right,
you can't play golf.
No, I know. and it's Paul. What's the applications guy's name here? If he's watching, Paul, something or other. I was playing alongside him. I hit this ball and it hit this tree and it bounced off and it literally landed about, I don't know, it must have been 2 foot from the pin, but it was a par 3.
You didn't drop it down your trouser leg.
No.
Well, he drops everything else down his trousers. He might as well drop a golf ball.
Yeah, so I won the closest to the pin, but they are fabulous with their customers.
Now,
fabulous events.
My last point, just before you do what you do, I've got a question for you, Paul. You're not allowed to answer this, Joe, because you were there. Now, we've been to a company recently called Alitech Precision. You've been there before for Open Mind. Now, I've been twice last year. I went first off with Seric, talk about all their tooling, and then I went later on in the year with Kingsbury to talk about Hermle. Now, if I said to you, here's this, I want you to machine it. Now, you program all that, you put it in the machine, and you press go. You don't check it. You don't knife and fork the first one like we always do. Would you do it?
No.
Now, this guy, again, same as what we're saying, this guy runs...
What's the value of the part, I guess?
High.
High. A lot of money. Now, he, again, he's sort of a one-man band. He's got a couple of like machinists who run the 3-axis machines, but he now has 4 Hermles. He runs them all himself. And... yeah, he gets a part, he gets a drawing, he programs it all in Open Mind, and he's so confident with Open Mind's virtual machine that they don't check it. They send the program to machine, the material's loaded into the pallet, and he presses go and he goes home.
Wow.
And that is confidence.
What is the part?
They're all bits to do with automotive,
engine
like
blocks,
F1 cars, that sort of thing. And
because I saw the engine block that you...
Now, again, having trust in your process. Darren is, like you said earlier, he's just got a mind for it. He can see solutions to problems where we haven't even seen the problem yet. And he machined that engine block, which, if you've not seen it, it's on our LinkedIn page, where it wasn't even the tool or the spindle, it was the back of the spindle block was within a millimetre of the part.
Yeah.
And
clearance is clearance.
Yeah.
it is.
Clearance is
He didn't check that. He put it on and pressed go. That's how much confidence he had in that machine.
Let's hope in 2025 all is okay, and it's the same story that you're saying into the back end of the year.
And then obviously we went there for Seric first off, and it was really funny actually, because I was always known for pushing tools, trying to break tools. I never took anything slowly. Well, Darren's actually took it to the next level now, where he works in partnership again with Seric, and Neville go in and say, oh, here's a tool, Darren, I reckon you could run that at 100 metres a minute and 0.5, whatever. And Darren will go, nah, I can run that 3 times that speed. To the point now where he runs tools until they break and then takes 5% off, and that's where he runs them at. Wow. Yeah. And he's so brave, and he's just got his new machine now from Kingsbury, and it's a monster in it, Joe. It's I don't know if you've ever seen the Hermle machine, where you have the pallet loading at one side and then the machine, and then in the middle where the pallets come through, you can walk through it. So when it's not running, you walk through the middle of where the actual pallet loader runs. Right. And he will. A little bit of a funny story about when he ordered that machine. He ordered it into the building at the side of him. Now the building at the side's got a bit of a veranda. He measured all this. And I don't like to call him out because this guy can make the most amazing things. Well, he measured it all, and sort of when the Hermle came in, it was actually longer than it was meant to be. So this 12 pallet machine is now running 10 pallets at the moment, because they can't add the next ones on because it goes under the veranda.
Underneath.
But they are moving. They're
moving into a humongous facility, and that's all we'll say, because I don't know how much.
And just quickly on that. Clever guy, Darren. Really fantastic CNC machinist. He's got other members of the team, don't get me wrong, but fantastic. And what an advocate for the Hermle machines. Yeah. Honestly, you just literally won't have conversations about any other machine tool provider.
It's
going to be Hermle.
You know, people see things differently. You know, that's talent in industry. I was going to go through highlights, but I think actually we've covered a lot of highlights within this podcast. So for me, I'm just probably going to close it off if anyone else has anything to say. But you know, as I said earlier, it's been quite a transformative year. We're seeing people, adopting automation, changing, moving into the future with automation and embracing it. And we're going to see a big change in 2025 as well. We've got lots of customers, lots of events, lots of trips abroad. Personally, I'm off to Thailand with Sodic to see one of their facilities. Maybe Tom is going to Germany as well, hopefully.
I'm going to go downstairs and put my name on the software, so I have to go. That's it, job done.
We've got lots of events happening, and really, you know, as I said at the very beginning, it's a privilege for us to be able to go out and visit each and every single one of you as customers, as brands, wherever you're supplying to industry, and we look forward to working with many more of you ahead in this, what we hope is going to be an exciting year of 2025. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTD CNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.